You're watching Oilers Nation Everyday with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
Good evening. Liam, this is weird. We usually don't talk after 1 o'clock. We go our separate ways, but we decided to go live with a special edition, a live reaction edition of Oilers Nation Every Day. As the news has come down, Lehman, it's a 3-game suspension for Connor McDavid, but it's a 3-game suspension for Tyler Myers as well. Let's just first start the Connor McDavid side of it. He gets 3 games for this. I honestly have a hard time having a big gripe with this. I know some people in the chat were already seeing it. Matthews only got 2. I think sort of the key differentiator here is Matthews kind of had a bit of a ride up to it. And today on the show, Liam, we went through a handful of kind of past examples. And as much as the NHL Department of Player Safety can be a little bit random at times, I think there's some logic to McDavid getting 3 games. I'm not going to raise a big stink about this, but will you?
I mean, it's just disappointing because I think it was a situation that was just very avoidable by both McDavid and the officiating on the night. I think the history of McDavid, I know he's not technically a repeat offender under the CBA, but I do believe they look into the history of it because that was an indication of a key point at the end of the player safety video too. And McDavid obviously suspended in, 2018, 2019 for his hit on Nick Leddy. I think he has a couple of fines in there as well. So that plays a role in it. It's disappointing. I'm just glad they didn't go the approach of, okay, Myers, you get 2, McDavid gets 3, because I just think that would have been an absolute chaos. It's just so chaotic for what it would have been. And it is frustrating though in times as well, because we've seen it where, like in the playoffs last season when we played Vancouver against Vegas, where Pietrangelo gets the 1-game suspension for the slash across who was it, Draisaitl, and obviously Nurse gets his 1 for the instigation. It's like sometimes it's just the easy way out, but I think in this situation they probably just got it right, giving them both 3. I did think it was going to be 2 just based off the schedule.
Yeah, I honestly thought kind of the path of least resistance. And again, we've seen the league go that way a bit. Like if you remember, Pietrangelo got a game and they gave Darnell Nurse a game for the late game instigator or whatever, a penalty that they rescind 99% of the time. But they didn't do it then because it was just convenient to go, you lose Pietrangelo, you lose Nurse, back out you go. And I thought the easy way to handle this one was 2 and 2, because then you go, hey, no one's playing in the rematch. And after that, you two sides don't really give a shit about each other, so whatever. And then we don't miss a third Connor McDavid game. But if it was up to me and just the way I viewed those plays through, again, Oilers lenses, it's Oilers Nation every day. Hello. I thought Myers deserved more because that was just him going after a guy who wasn't engaged with him and had no interest really in engaging with him. Bouchard pops out the mouth guard. You aren't popping out your mouth guard if you're going in to grapple with a guy or to take a shot at him. So I felt like Myers did it on, call it more of a defenseless player, whereas Conor Garland, he held Connor McDavid for 13 seconds out of the final 18 seconds of that hockey game. Conor Garland was very, very clearly willing to engage in some sort of physicality with Connor McDavid. So that's where I thought Myers maybe deserved more. But again, you'd almost just get back to you couldn't suspend Myers for the rematch on Thursday and not suspend McDavid for the rematch, because I'm sure Tyler Myers would sit there and go, hey, if I don't see my guy get clocked, I'm not clocking anybody back.
Yeah, I agree. And someone, I missed it already, it went by, but someone is saying George Peros is a joke. I actually, in this situation, like, I honestly do not put any of this on NHL the player safety. This for me is all on the officiating. I think this is their fault, and they put their own staff, their own NHL staff, in a bad spot. I think that's something that needs to be addressed. Like we kind of talked about it earlier, didn't we? Of just like the penalties per 60 minutes. I went through as well, and I looked. It was only 3 years ago. Connor McDavid led the NHL in penalties drawn. He did it for back-to-back years, and this year, this was before knowing how many games he got suspended. He is now on pace to draw 26 penalties if he was to play, whatever it would be, minus the 3 games. So less than 26 penalties this season. He's currently 48th in the NHL for penalties drawn. Last season, for comparison, he was 41, and that's 5th. Previous 2 years, he was first with close to 50, and then the year after that, which was 2020, 2021. He was second with 29 in a shortened season. So I don't know why the NHL all of a sudden just decided to stop calling penalties and just like moving away from their rule book. Like the game hasn't slowed down. It's arguably got way faster and more sticks are getting in the way. And there's no way this like group of NHL players, as skilled as they all are, figured out how to not trip up people on a consistent basis or hold in and stuff like that. It's just weird. And again, I think this comes down to the officiating in many parts of it more than anything else.
Yeah, Aaron's got a poll up in the YouTube, so everybody over in the YouTube chat, brought to you by our friends at Odd Company. Shout out Odd Company and the all-new Nation Beer. Hey, maybe Connor can just kick his feet up and be like, I'm just going to have a couple brewskis now. Perfect for game days. Anyways, shouldn't have said that maybe. Shout out to Odd Company Brewing.
Yeah.
But you're right, Liam. Like, if you go this year and the 4 years prior, the only Connor McDavid's drawn 179 penalties. The only player who is right there with him, Brady Tkachuk's at 179 as well. So it is weird that this year it's fallen off. I do think, and I don't think Connor McDavid will ever come out and say it, but I think that frustration has led to what we've seen. And I had someone who just texted me and was like, hey, is this McDavid suspension maybe a 2+1? Like they said, you're getting 2 for the cross check. And by the way, that Johansson elbow, maybe we should have done something about that if you're going to keep acting like this. Like that being fresh in their minds is like Connor McDavid deserves a bit of a bigger punishment. Our good friend Jeff Merrick is in the chat as well. He's always the voice of reason. He said, I understand the frustration at how McDavid was being held by Garland, but you can't react to a minor penalty that way. And I think that's fair as well. Like, again, maybe McDavid being held it's obviously not a justification for cross-checking someone in the face, a pretty dangerous play in comparison to a holding penalty. But I mean, again, even when Garland gets up here, like he goes after McDavid again in a way to grab him and initiate contact. And that's where I think maybe this is why it wasn't 4 or 5 games for Connor McDavid, right? The fact that they can sit there and look and say, you were dancing with a relatively willing combatant. McDavid went way too far in terms of that combat, but still, it's Garland knows he's getting into Garland knows he's getting into a little bit of a shoving match here. Again, not expecting a cross-check, but Garland knows what he's doing, and that's my bigger problem with Tyler Myers, and why I'm at least happy Myers got the exact same number of games as McDavid and not less, is because, like, this is you can at least make the argument this is heat of the moment, battle, 2 guys going head-to-head, Connor crosses the line. McDavid, that is. Sure. Myers is like, again, Bouchard's on a peacekeeping mission here, just kind of going over and being like, all right, let's do the token grab onto each other and show we're in the scrum. And Tyler Myers takes it way further than it ever needed to. Like, that's no other reason other than intending to injure the guy when you cross-check him like that and you're 6'7". So I'm happy it's 3-3. I'm not going to I'm not going to sit here and complain too hard about McDavid getting 3 games. I'm not going to do the Department of Player Safety as a joke, blah, 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 because I think it's honestly a pretty justified 3 games for Connor McDavid.
Yeah, I do too. And I think we all have that stance of, you can't just cross-check guys in the head. It's not a good look, to say the least. But I think there's a lot of things that go into it for the level of frustration with McDavid. Like we just said, the amount of penalties he's drawn this season. It was only at the start of last week he was slew-footed and dumped on his head in the same game. And I know that the Laferriere one was called, but I'm also not fully convinced it would have been if Kapanen didn't grab him, to be honest, and scrimmage with him. So there's that. There's other things too, like I said, the Kempe thing. But yeah, like the history of McDavid and added it to it. And I wonder if that added it to Myers as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it might have. Just to quickly give one more sort of fact to the McDavid penalty thing. So coming into this year, penalties drawn per 60 minutes, if you were to look at the 4-year sample size, 2020, 2021 to 2023, 2024, 4-year sample, he was 10th in the NHL in penalties drawn per 60 minutes. I filtered it at 250 games in that stretch, which gives you it's a lot. It's like 300 players to choose from. And he's, again, 10th in the league. So coming into this year wasn't that big of a problem. Although you could argue with the type of talent Connor McDavid is, he should be number 1 on that list by a wide margin. And you look at this year, he's 197th. Again, frustration from McDavid. And to go along the lines of like what Chris Pronger was saying, I think if you eventually stick enough guys might stop kind of trying to mess with you a little bit. And not that defensemen are ever going to not play Connor McDavid hard. And I get the other argument of this, which is other teams might say, well, if you just take a couple holding penalties on McDavid, maybe he'll get stupid enough to get himself kicked out of a game. So play him even harder. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't have a problem with Connor McDavid sticking up for himself. And I loved Chris Pronger's take on Twitter, or X.com as they call it now.
That's what the kids are calling it now anyway. I don't have a problem with it either. Sometimes you just have to, right? Like you can't just wait around for someone to come and do something, because we've seen it numerous other times when something does go wrong for him and no one does step up for him. Like, yeah, did the Oilers have an enforcer issue? Like, I don't know. Like, look at the moment. Like, what is it? What if Evander Kane was in the lineup? He wouldn't have been on the ice in that moment. You know, like there's certain things I just think it kind of is what it is. Unfortunately, I think this is just the way the NHL is, and maybe the Oilers need more of a guy like Conor Garland, to be honest, in that style of player. Because like we were looking before, the guys who are drawing all these penalties are guys like him, the Kachuk brothers, Marchand, Hathaway, those kind of players. Like maybe that's what the Oilers need to go out and find, rather than someone like Josh Brown, who they have on a 3-year deal for whatever reason. But either way, like I don't know. The enforcer argument for me just really isn't one. I think sometimes, you kind of just got to stand up for yourself on the playground a little bit.
Yeah. Let's get to a couple of comments here in the chat. Jeff dropped in another good one. Players would gladly take a cross-check in the head to get McDavid out of a series. Don't think someone on the Kings would do that. And yeah, I mean, if you're McDavid, you definitely have to pick your spots, or at least don't cross-check guys in the head. Maybe throw it somewhere in the arm where there's a little bit less padding and you can still kind of hurt them or sting them without maybe even taking a penalty at all. What else is in here? We got a couple. Also, our Facebook is popping. Jennifer says Thursday's game is going to be interesting. And I think it will. But the other thing is, Liam, and listen, whenever we have Louis DeBrusque on, it's now like a weekly topic we hit on with Louis. The Oilers don't like scrums. They do not like fighting in scrums. They don't really like fighting all of that much. We saw Stuart Skinner get ran. No one wanted to touch Nikita Zadorov. We saw Matthias Ekholm get ran from behind. No one wanted to touch Jack Eichel. I don't know if this is an Oilers team that's going to go out there trying to exact some sort of retribution or have some sort of a revenge plan drawn up. Could they maybe play Conor Garland a little bit hard? Yeah, maybe, but I don't think this is an Oilers team that's going to go out there and goon it up on Thursday.
But you know what's going to happen if they do that is they're going to go to the box. Again,
well, that too.
Conor Garland is 7th in the league in drawing penalties, so he's just going to send him a parade. I really don't think they'll respond to it in kind of that way that's going to just provoke them and a parade to the penalty box. I think they're just going to try and beat them on the score sheet. And I think the angle of obviously not having McDavid for that game is not good for the Oilers, but at least they can replace him with Draisaitl. Like what are they called? The Vancouver Canucks now have to replace Tyler Myers with Vincent Desharnais or Derek Forbort. Like it's not a good thing for them to lose Myers for 3 games too, as much as like he's not a star by any means, but he still takes up 20 minutes a night. He's a pretty decent player, but so maybe the others will just try and counter it in that way, I guess you could say. Like at least they have Draisaitl, who is the best player in the NHL right now.
Yeah, Sergeant Battlein. You go Perry, Nuge, Janmark, Nurse, Brown, starting 5. Send a message, a little line brawl right off the get-go, like that Calgary.
That would be awesome.
Game, 11
that
years
would
ago.
Be so awesome. If they called up Josh Brown tomorrow or Wednesday, I guess, I think that sets a bit of a tone, right? We're not going to see it, but that would be pretty awesome.
It'd be good for our friends at hockeyfights.com. I mean, Dan would have to work until 2 a.m, but page views would go up for him. So yeah,
I would help him out that night. I'd text Dan and say, "Hey, buddy, I'll lend a hand. I don't know what I got to do, but I'll help you."
Yeah. What else? I'm scrolling through the chat now. It is buzzing right now. Everybody has a lot of opinions on this one. Where was I? Totally lost my spot. Myers says he didn't mean to cross-check Bouchard. LOL, then what WTF were you trying to do? I do think, again, first off, yes, funny. But like, and this is the quote from our boy J Pat, who's always on top of things out in Vancouver. Myers says he knows the video doesn't look good. Says intent was to hit Bouchard lower, but also knows he misfired. Sounds like he's ready to accept his punishment. Acknowledged that Bouchard didn't present a threat in that moment. Yeah, no shit. Just a split-second decision that went wrong. And yeah, I also do think if I'm going to, Oilers fans, don't kill me. If I'm going to cut Tyler Myers some slack, if you see your guy get cross-checked in the head and then you see Evan Bouchard skating at you, in the split second, it's like, oh, sure, I'll pop you. Like, again, the juices are flowing. It's a rivalry game. Neither side likes each other. Again, Myers got what he deserved. 3 games. I'm not sitting here thinking the NHL Department of Player Safety let Tyler Myers off light by any means.
No, I don't think so. At the end of the day, it's the same thing, right? They're very same outcome, different situations, I guess. Like McDavid clearly just saw red and was in the moment. Tyler Myers just saw Evan Bouchard's getting towards him and just put his stick out right in front of him. It was strange. I agree. I'm sure he didn't mean to cross-check him in the head. Like I'm sure McDavid didn't mean to actually cross-check Garland in the head. But at the end of the day, they did. I'm very curious to see what McDavid has to say when he speaks to the media. Like, will he come out and just kind of give his real thoughts on the thing? Because Knobloch kind of did last night, didn't he? Saturday night, sorry. He was like, yeah, he was held down for, what do we count, 13 seconds he was held on the ice for. So I'd be curious to see what McDavid has to say. He's not been afraid totally of like kind of giving his opinions on certain things.
Yeah. Okay, we got a couple comments here that tie into each other, including a super chat. Shout out to Benjamin Van Berkel, who dropped in $6.99 and said, who are we calling up? Just a reminder, every dollar, every cent from our super chat goes to support the Ben Stelter Foundation. If people are willing to throw their money in our YouTube, we want to make sure it's going to a good cause, and there's no cause better than the work that they are doing over at the Ben Stelter Foundation. He asked, who are we calling up? Our guy Russ Jericho is in and says, Savoy would be nice. Listen, unless I am totally missing something here, the Oilers' plan with Matt Savoy, I see a bunch of you dropping it in right now and saying his name. The plan with Matt Savoy is to develop him properly. I don't think they see a ton of benefit in disrupting that development plan to bring him up for 3 games. I think if Matt Savoy is going to get called up one day, whenever that is, it's either because someone in the top 6 is, we're probably talking months, not weeks of an injury. And again, if they call him up, I think they probably want him here to stay. So Liam, this could age poorly in 2 hours if the Oilers surprise me, but I think there is a 0% chance it's Matt Savoy coming up, and I think that's the right call.
Yeah, well, don't they have 12 forwards on the team already? And Kasperi Kapanen is,
yes,
I don't know.
They have the Kapanen.
Yeah, they have the 12 guys. I actually think the lineup is quite simple. I think they just push the second line up to the first line, and then make Nugent Hopkins a center next to Hyman and just bring up Skinner or Kapanen, whoever it may be, right? Like, I think they actually have the pieces to make this work for a 3-game span because they already did it once this season without Connor McDavid 3 games. So, yeah, the lineups to me seem pretty self-explanatory. Do you disagree? Do you think it's pretty straightforward too?
Yeah, I what I would do, just because we got Gregor's lines up here, so you're pulling McDavid out. You had that Perry Kapanen duo on the 4th line. I think you see Nuge with Hyman and throw Perry up there. Why not? Flip them. Hey, we're big fans of that. Now just flip them. Just flip them. What are we talking about? Just flip them. I would go Perry, Nuge, Hyman, Podkolzin, Draisaitl, Arvidsson. Yep, Skinner, Henrique, Brown checks out. Janmark, Philip, Kapanen. That's a fine line too. I also wouldn't be the least bit surprised just because we've seen Chris Knobloch do this in the past, but just throw Janmark up with Nugent Hyman. I mean, Janmark's always their spot duty top 6 guy for whatever reason. He scored no goals on a goalie this year, but I wouldn't be surprised. One of Janmark or Perry will play with Nugent Hyman. Everything else will stay the same.
Yeah, I was going to say, Janmark, known goal scorer on empty nets. Great practice player. Probably will get thrown up into the top 6 for whatever reason, but all jokes aside, they do have the skill to put it up there. Maybe it should be Skinner. But that third line of Skinner, Henrique, and Brown, we have seen in moments this season have good games and actually help the others win a game against Philadelphia, of course, very early in the year. But we'll see. Maybe this is a really good opportunity for Jeff Skinner to grab a hold of something and prove like, hey, if you play me 15 minutes, I can actually produce quite well.
I'm not holding my breath.
No, me neither.
I get it. Like, again, in my brain, logic, you have a spot because you're going to move Nuge over. You want to put some skill in your top 6. Who's the most skilled guy in your bottom 6? Jeff Skinner. Elevate Jeff Skinner. But I think we've seen now, like, there was a point they were missing Hyman and Arvidsson from this lineup in December, and Jeff Skinner was still not getting minutes next to Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So, again, I don't think the McDavid thing changes it. And also, if you're one of those people sitting there going, Jeff Skinner needs a chance, Jeff Skinner needs one more chance or needs a legitimate chance, put him up there when McDavid's back. Like, I want to see Jeff Skinner with Connor McDavid, not Jeff Skinner with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, if that makes any sense. Couple super chats to catch up on. Our boy Jeremiah from way up in Alaska. For Ben, happy MLK. Liam and Typer probably meant Tyler, but you never know. The argument that if he doesn't get held down, McDavid doesn't get sussied is flawed. That's like shooting someone for cutting you off in traffic. You still go to jail. I get that. Like, again, it's a minor penalty from Garland that if it's called in the first 3 seconds of the hold, I don't think we're live right now, Liam. I'm enjoying the chicken sandwiches I'm having for dinner tonight and kicking my feet up with the Nation beer. So, again, I'm not totally letting the officials off the hook here, but I do agree with what Jeremiah is saying. Like, as much as I'm taking the argument of Garland was a willing combatant, you still cannot cross-check someone in the head. I think it's free reign to take a shot at him and give him a little pop, but cross-checking him in the head, using your stick as a weapon, that's probably where that is probably where you have to draw the line. But we appreciate the donation to the Ben Stelter Fund. Everett is in. Time for Skinner to redeem. Yeah, we just kind of touched on that, which I'm sure you heard after dropping in your super chat, but we appreciate the money. I'm not seeing it with Jeff Skinner. I don't know. I do. Again, he needs 5 games next to Connor at some point, or 3 games. I won't even go that far. 3 games with Connor at some point, but it's not happening now when McDavid's suspended.
What about the power play? Because we saw Arvidsson go on the power play for Nudes that one game. He got a point, but it definitely just didn't seem to work as well because obviously he's a right-handed shot and Nudes is a left. And now it's the same with McDavid gone. Like, I can't remember how they did it. I don't know if it went well, if I'm remembering correctly. It must have been Skinner went up. Let me look. You know what? I'll go back and look.
Okay, you look. What I would do on the power play, I mean, call me crazy. I think I go 2 defensemen. I just throw Ekholm.
Oh, that is what they did.
Yeah, they have done that.
Yeah, the Ekholm. Maybe that is the way you go. Ekholm, Bouchard on the top, one of them down the side. You could use Bouchard in an Ovechkin role against Ovechkin, who, by the way, crazy stat. You've been dropping crazy stats on me all the past week. Alexander Ovechkin has drawn 0 penalties this season, which I thought was crazy. I don't watch a lot of Capitals games, but you'd think you get 1 accidentally with 0.
I also like this idea, Liam. What do you think? Sergeant Battle drops it in the chat. Perry net front, Hyman slides to the bumper. I could see that too. Give Perry the net front slot. Hyman's skilled enough to move around a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't hate it. I could see them trying it. I think I would honestly go with Ekholm or Skinner. I think that's the way.
Aaron, do you have the Bob tweet? It's a banger from our boy Bobby Stauffer.
Yeah.
The NFL gets it. The NHL doesn't it. The NFL protects their stars, the QBs. The NHL wants their stars to play through the crap, all while benefiting from record revenues driven by, you guessed it, their stars. Attaboy, Bob. Get him, Bobby. Also, good thing he pays for Twitter Blue. He can edit out that spelling mistake really quick.
And if you have Bob Stauffer notifications on, he's a tweet editor. He's a big time tweet editor.
he shoot first, think second, Liam, and that's what we love about our boy Bob. But he's right. Like, again, if the NHL wanted to protect Connor McDavid more, they would. And I don't even want to see the NHL go to the extreme that, I mean, listen, I watched Patrick Mahomes the other day. I hated every second of the officiating in that game. I'm not even saying that every infraction on Connor McDavid needs to be called. I would just like to see 80% of them get called and force teams to have to adjust a little bit. And not just McDavid, that goes for every star. I want teams to have to play Kucherov a little bit differently and Matthews and all of them. Like, again, I think the league, if you do something to a star player, you shouldn't be allowed to level the playing field through infractions. You should have to find a way to defend him fairly. And that's really all I want. Shout out to our boy Steven Ellis. He's going to be on Daily Faceoff Live tomorrow. He says, hey, Liam, big fan. Go Sherwood Park. Yes, we stand with the Sherwood Park Crusaders here.
Yeah, I don't have any merch on me right now, but 3 players on the NHL Central Scouting list, Steven.
Who scouted those players, Liam?
This guy.
Bang.
When one of them's a first-round pick in the queue, you don't really need to watch much video, but we'll take the credit.
That's fair. Okay, we'll get to a few more here, and then we'll probably wrap this bad boy up because, as I mentioned, chicken sandwich is ready to go at my house, and I'm getting pretty hungry. Dan is in, says the league's an effing embarrassment. It's not. Like, again, I understand Oilers fans being angry about not getting to see Connor McDavid. We had our guy Duran in the chat today who's like, I bought tickets for Tuesday or for Thursday against Vancouver, and now people don't get to see Connor McDavid play, and that ultimately sucks. And Chemo says the refs are terrible. Yes, my ultimate beef with all of this is officiating. And if you know me, and if you've ever even played hockey with me, you know it takes very little for me to be upset with an official. But I just think the refs could have handled this whole situation better, even coming down to the thing at the end, throwing and going, every player on the ice gets a minor. That's lazy. That's a really lazy way to officiate the game. And I hope one day, as much as referees won't like this, there's a rule where, or a system where refs have to explain themselves after. And I think a lot of good in education can come from refs having to do that. I think having an official sit there and say, hey, this is the angle I had. I didn't quite see it from my spot. Like, having refs talk through what they're thinking when they make calls, I think is a very mutually beneficial thing. But it would also have to come with sometimes refs having to answer for their work. And I don't think they want that. And I don't even get the sense the league really wants that. But that'd be the best, is there's a pool reporter like you see in other sports where one trusted member of the media gets to sit down with the crew lead or whatever you'd call it in the NHL and ask them 3 to 5 questions about the hockey game. It'd be good. You'd get good quotes out of it, and you'd get a better understanding of it. But whatever, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I see a few people in the chat just asking what has happened. Both Connor McDavid and Tyler Myers have been suspended for 3 games each. So McDavid, well, both of them miss all 3 games for their teams this week. McDavid's back, whoever they play next Tuesday is when McDavid returns. There you go. Seattle on Monday, the 27th. So not ideal, but someone put in there too, like, refs are inconsistent. It's actually quite interesting because maybe they're consistently inconsistent. You know what I mean? Maybe all the refs are just inconsistent at the end of the day, and that's just the way it kind of is right now. I don't know. It's very frustrating as a fan, and I think it probably didn't help that McDavid and Vancouver was the primetime game that night on Hockey Day in Canada. And all of a sudden, you got the best player in the league and wrestled on the ice. That all cameras are on it. So I don't know. Just overall disappointing. I got the numbers from when McDavid was out, who was on the power play, and it was pretty much just Ekholm rotating in with the top unit.
So I bet you we'll see some Ekholm, and I liked Sergeant Battle's idea, maybe a bit of Perry as well. Waz says next Monday could also be John Klingberg's first game as an Oilers. We get Klingberg and McDavid in the lineup. Oh boy. Jeremiah dropped in another $9.99 for our boy Ben Stelter and the Ben Stelter Foundation. I 100% agree with you about everything you're saying about the officials, lazy officiating from Jeremiah. And yeah, obviously I stand with you on that one, Jeremiah. Would it surprise you at all, Liam, at all, if Connor McDavid comes out of this and he'll have 6 games, I believe, until the 4 Nations break? I could see him in those 6 games having like 14 points and just going like crazy pissed off supernova Connor for a bit.
Yeah, you could see him kind of coming back with a little vengeance, couldn't you? I'd be worried if I was a Seattle Kraken fan on Monday, to be honest.
Connor McDavid, 2+ points on Bet365 will be very, very aggressively bet. Also, if I was a betting man, and I am, over on Bet365, Leon Draisaitl today was +300 to win the Hart Trophy. Would it also surprise you if after these 3 games he's like +200 because the Oilers go 2-1 and Leon Draisaitl has an overtime winner mixed in there as well?
Yeah, this is another angle of it, isn't it? Like, this should help if he performs at the level he's been doing all season without McDavid. Like, this should help elevate his stock just across the entire league. I mean, we know it because we see him every night, but I do feel like there's some people out there who still think McDavid drives this team, and obviously he does some nights, but it really has been Draisaitl. So yeah, that's the one thing that we said. At least we have him to kind of guide us through these 3 games.
Yeah. Again, Oilers still got the Hart Trophy leader, clubhouse leader, still on their roster, so they'll be fine. Apparently Bob is going off on this thing right now too. Here's someone who'll be happy. Cody says Lenny's gonna get walked so many times. That is a good point.
Connor, that was a crazy comment to drop. Just like, Lauren doesn't walk him when I'm out of town. What the heck?
Yeah, well,
real
gonna be sticking
real
around.
Send a message. I'm sure that was totally a topic of conversation when he got home.
Probably. All right, Liam, we did this bad boy for 30 minutes. I think that's more than enough because for people who are maybe watching right now who don't usually tune into this show, we're live every weekday at noon Mountain Time for an entire hour. Shout out to Bradley, whose profile picture is Paul Stastny on the Vegas Golden Knights for some reason. Weird. Called me handsome. Thank you. Backwards hat hides all. But yeah, we're live every single day Monday through Friday, noon Mountain Time, talking Oilers.
Yeah. And if you want to keep dropping your takes on this, Jason Gregg is still live for another half an hour on this show as well. So just go drop your comments over at him. I'm sure they'll read a couple out on Sports 1440 there too.
What are you doing for supper?
I already ate. I didn't know what to do. So I just sat down, had a bowl of pasta and chicken. I'm going to go watch the last 20 minutes of Severance that I've been watching.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I can't wait. Then I have a big co-ed game tonight. Planning to get suspended 2 to 3 games.
You're Connor. Jeff Merrick says, get this angry next time you vote, which, we're out of time. I know you wanted to talk about Evander Kane at the inauguration, but Liam, there's no time for it today. We got to wrap up the show. Shout out to our guy, Aaron Bordato, for pulling some extra work and producing this bad boy behind the scenes. Everybody who retweeted this thing for us as well. Really good numbers. So the emergency show was a success. Connor McDavid not going to be in the lineup for the next 3 Edmonton Oilers games. I say they go 2-1. Liam?
3-0, baby.
All right,
biggest win against Vancouver.
I love it. We'll continue this conversation tomorrow, noon Mountain Time, right here on the Oilers Nation YouTube. If you didn't subscribe, please. And we'll chat with you again tomorrow. Oil up.
Thank you for watching Oilers Nation Every Day. Hit the subscribe button to never miss a show. And for more, visit OilersNation.com.